So I'm going to go through an overview of the financial analyst role. In our flow diagram, then we're really zooming in on this part of it here, whereas the financial analyst, you get the cards from the banker, you check them, and then send them on to the tally board operator. So this is really the part of the flow diagram we're going to be focusing on for this video. So again, we are here in our test version of it, but the actual one will look the same. And basically, as the financial analyst, you're really going to be spending all of your time here in the banking admin channel. So this is a channel that only the faculty really have access to. And what you'll see here is and as the financial analyst, your job really is to check that the projects being submitted are actually projects that the students have done the correct math on, and they actually have enough money. So for the purposes of the financial analyst, you really have to have two other things open while you're doing this. One is our box spreadsheet here that's going to be updated by the tally board operator. And this is where you cross-check, do they actually have enough resources to complete this project? So that's one thing you'll have up. The other thing you will have up in this case is the actual project cost sheet. And so that's the question of how much does each thing cost. So as the financial analyst, you'll essentially get a link here. And you can see here that Dr. Powell is actually experimenting on sending these links. But you'll just get a very complicated link in Teams. And that's when you click on that, what you'll see is, as a financial analyst, you'll get a notification. So we'll go back here to these conversations. So Dr. Powell, as the banker, will start this. And in this case, I'm playing that role. But she will basically title each new conversation. To start a new conversation, you go here. You won't have to do that as a financial analyst. You'll just be replying to conversations. So she'll start a new conversation, and she's going to send you a Teams link to the project card. These are the ones that, as the map you were used to getting kind of completed. In this case, the teams will fill them out. Dr. Powell will make sure that they all agree, and then she'll send them to you as the financial analyst to verify that the math is correct. So you'll get this notification. She's going to tag you. So in this case, this is an example where Joanna Pell was tagged, but essentially you'll be the tagged person, and she'll say I changed this from loan officer. She'll say financial analyst to check, and then you just click on the link. So you'll pull up a project card here. So again, the students will have listed what project they want to do, who contributed, and then put a little dot where it is. So you can see here's the project, and it's saying they want to build an ETU. So your first job as a financial analyst is to check to make sure they did their math correctly. So overall, they've contributed 2 money, 2 power, and 4 capacity. You go look at an ETU and say, okay, yes, it's 2 money, 2 power, 4 capacity. So check. They actually contributed enough. The next step will then be to make sure that each of these groups actually has that left. So step 2, once you've checked that they indeed did their math correctly, we'll make sure they have those resources. So you'll go here, and you'll have access to our tally board, and you will have real-time updates of how many resources each one has left. So the CDC had 4 capacity. They have 12 left, so great. You don't have to subtract it at all. You just check. So 12 capacity, they contributed 4, great. The WHO has had 2 power. They have 4, or they have 6 total left, good. So that checks out. The Gates Foundation is giving 2 money. Right now they have 16 left, so that all checks out. So now you've approved it. You've made sure that you've checked it with the project cost sheet. You've checked it with the tally board. You have approved this project. You're going to then close it, and you're going to go back and respond as the next. You'll respond, and you'll send it all along to the next person. So if we go back to our flow sheet here, you can see that once you've approved it, that will go to the tally board operator at Amy Baldwin. So in this case, you tag at Amy Baldwin, and you would say financial analyst approved. And that tells Dr. Baldwin that you have checked this out and that it's ready for the next step. And then you just hit send and then you pass it along. Now, what you'll notice here is that each conversation has its own kind of separate space, which is really important because if you're working from top to bottom, you want to make sure that you're keeping track of which cards you've checked off. So the way to do that is to make sure you start from the top and work down. So it comes in, it's in order of time. So you'd start, if you're getting 3 at once, that's fine. You just start 1 and then check that one. And if you want to make sure you replied, you can look here and you can see, okay, yes, I replied here in Teams. So here we are. So we were looking at this one, and here I am acting as the financial analyst. I've approved it, and then I've sent it to Amy Baldwin to do the tally, to check, to then subtract the resources as the tally board operator. And that's really your only job as a financial analyst, is to check the math. Now, if you do a card and the math doesn't work out, either they didn't put enough resources on the card or one of the groups can't afford it, then if we go back to our algorithm here, all you do as the financial analyst is say, okay, they didn't actually afford it, and you're going to reject the project. When you reject the project, you send it just back to Dr. Powell and say rejected. So I'm going to use this same example here. I have this card. Let's say you look at it, but actually their math is incorrect. So in this case, they've contributed, if we look, they've contributed too much money and too much power and not enough capacity. So they did their math wrong in this case. And they don't have enough capacity and they don't have enough power. You don't actually have to tell them what they did wrong. You can just reject the card. So in this case, we're going to say, here, we'll use this, we're going to go back and we're going to send this back to Dr. Powell. We'll say, too much money and capacity, too much money and power. Okay. Or we could just say math incorrect, not enough capacity contributed. And then you're going to send that back to Dr. Powell. So you'll send that there. You'll tag her. That will let her know that then she should, if you look at the algorithm, if you look at this algorithm here, she'll let the groups know. So that's your primary job as the financial analyst, like passing the cards that check off back to the tally board operator, and then if rejected, sending them back to the banker.